Sarah had always enjoyed the quiet solitude of her small cabin tucked away in the woods. It was her haven, a place to escape the chaos of the city. But tonight, as the wind howled outside and the branches scraped against the windows like bony fingers, her sanctuary felt more like a prison. Alone in the darkness, Sarah heard strange noises echoing through the empty rooms. Creaks and whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, sending shivers down her spine. She tried to tell herself it was just her imagination, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. As she sat by the flickering fire, trying to shake off her unease, Sarah heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, deliberate footsteps that seemed to draw closer with each passing moment. Her heart pounded in her chest as she realized she was not alone. With trembling hands, she reached for the phone, only to find it dead. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she was cut off from the outside world. Desperate and terrified, she huddled in a corner, praying for morning to come. But morning brought no relief. The footsteps continued, relentless in their pursuit. Shadows danced in the corners of her vision, mocking her terror. And then, just when she thought she couldn't bear it any longer, the footsteps stopped. Silence engulfed the cabin like a suffocating blanket, broken only by the sound of her own ragged breathing. And then, from the depths of the darkness, came a voice. "Sarah," it whispered, a cold breath against her ear. "You're not alone." And in that moment, she knew she never had been. As the voice echoed through the empty cabin, Sarah's blood ran cold. She remained frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to flee from whatever unseen presence lurked in the shadows. But fear held her captive, rooted to the spot as the voice grew stronger, its words twisting like thorns in her mind. "You thought you could escape," it whispered, its tone dripping with malice. "But you belong to me now." Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she searched for any sign of the intruder. The walls seemed to close in around her, suffocating her with their silent menace. She could feel eyes watching her from the darkness, hungry and relentless. Summoning every ounce of courage she possessed, Sarah forced herself to move. With trembling limbs, she reached for the door, praying for salvation. But as her hand closed around the doorknob, a sudden gust of wind slammed it shut with a deafening bang. Terror consumed her as she realized she was trapped, alone with whatever darkness dwelled within the cabin. Tears stung her eyes as she sank to the floor, her resolve crumbling like ancient ruins. Hours passed like a nightmare, each moment dragging her deeper into the abyss. And then, just when she thought she could bear no more, a faint light flickered in the distance. Hope ignited within her chest as she stumbled towards it, driven by desperation and despair. But as she drew closer, the light revealed not salvation, but something far more sinister. A figure stood in the clearing, its features obscured by shadow. Sarah's heart pounded in her ears as she struggled to comprehend the horror before her. And then, with a voice like shattered glass, it spoke her name. "Sarah," it whispered, its words a chilling echo of her own thoughts. "Welcome home." And in that moment, she knew she would never escape. As Sarah stood frozen in the clearing, the figure before her seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Its presence loomed large, casting a suffocating shadow over her fragile resolve. With each passing moment, the air grew thick with anticipation, as if the very forest held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Sarah's mind raced, grappling with the impossible truth of what stood before her. "Who are you?" she managed to choke out, her voice barely a whisper in the oppressive silence. The figure remained unmoved, its form a twisted silhouette against the pale moonlight. Its eyes, two pinpricks of malevolent light, bore into her soul with a hunger that sent shivers down her spine. "I am the darkness that dwells within," it replied, its voice a haunting melody that echoed through the night. "I am the nightmare that haunts your dreams." Sarah's pulse quickened as she struggled to comprehend the entity's words. Fear gnawed at her insides, threatening to consume her with its icy grip. "What do you want from me?" she pleaded, her voice trembling with uncertainty. The figure's lips curled into a twisted smile, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. Its laughter echoed through the trees, a cacophony of madness that filled the night with dread. "I want what is mine," it hissed, its voice dripping with venom. "I want your soul." With a surge of primal terror, Sarah turned to flee, her feet pounding against the forest floor as she raced into the darkness. But no matter how far she ran, the figure remained one step behind, a specter of her deepest fears. As the night stretched on, Sarah's strength waned, her spirit broken by the relentless pursuit. And in the end, as the darkness consumed her, she knew she would never escape the horror that awaited. In the eerie silence of the night, Sarah's heart pounded in her chest like a drumbeat of dread. Every rustle of the leaves, every whisper of the wind, seemed to conspire against her, a symphony of terror that echoed through the darkness. With each passing moment, the forest grew denser, the trees closing in around her like gnarled fingers reaching from the earth. Sweat beaded on her brow as she stumbled through the underbrush, her breath ragged with exhaustion. But still, the figure pursued her, its presence a looming shadow that haunted her every step. Its laughter echoed through the trees, a mocking refrain that filled the night with dread. Driven by fear and desperation, Sarah pushed herself to the brink of collapse, her muscles burning with the effort of her flight. But no matter how far she ran, she could not escape the darkness that pursued her, relentless and unyielding. As dawn broke on the horizon, Sarah's strength faltered, her spirit broken by the relentless onslaught of terror. With a final, desperate cry, she sank to her knees, her body racked with sobs of despair. And then, in the silence that followed, a voice whispered through the trees, soft and serene like the gentle caress of a breeze. "Sarah," it murmured, a soothing melody that washed over her like a benediction. "Fear not, for I am with you." With trembling hands, Sarah looked up to see a figure emerge from the shadows, its form radiant with an otherworldly light. In its eyes, she saw a glimmer of hope, a promise of redemption in the face of overwhelming darkness. With a sense of awe and wonder, Sarah reached out to the figure, her heart filled with a newfound sense of peace. And in that moment, as the first light of dawn illuminated the world around her, she knew that she was not alone. For even in the darkest of nights, there is always a flicker of light to guide the way. The old house stood at the end of the winding road, its weathered facade cloaked in darkness as night descended upon the sleepy town. For Emily, it was a place of both fascination and fear, its haunted reputation whispered in hushed tones among the locals. As she stepped through the threshold, the air seemed to grow heavy with the weight of centuries past, the floorboards creaking beneath her feet like the groans of restless spirits. But Emily paid no heed to the warnings, her curiosity driving her deeper into the heart of the house. Alone in the darkness, she wandered through the empty rooms, the shadows dancing in the corners of her vision like specters from a forgotten nightmare. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her own heartbeat echoing through the halls. But as the hours passed, Emily's sense of unease grew, a gnawing sensation that clawed at the edges of her consciousness. Strange noises echoed through the empty corridors, whispers and murmurs that seemed to beckon her into the depths of the darkness. With trembling hands, she reached for the light switch, but the darkness remained unyielding, its grasp tightening with each passing moment. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she was not alone, that something lurked in the shadows, watching and waiting. Desperate for escape, Emily turned to flee, but the doors refused to budge, their iron hinges sealed shut by some unseen force. Trapped in the labyrinth of the house, she was consumed by a sense of dread unlike anything she had ever known. And then, just when she thought she could bear it no longer, she heard it. A faint whisper, barely audible above the din of the night. Emily froze, her breath catching in her throat as the voice grew stronger, its words a chilling echo in the darkness. "Emily," it whispered, a cold breath against her ear. "Welcome home." Terror gripped her heart as she turned to face the voice, her eyes widening in horror at the figure that stood before her. Its form was shrouded in darkness, its features twisted and contorted into a grotesque parody of humanity. With each step, it drew closer, its eyes gleaming with a hunger that sent shivers down Emily's spine. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips, her voice drowned out by the suffocating silence of the night. And then, with a suddenness that took her breath away, the figure reached out, its fingers closing around her throat with a vice-like grip. Emily gasped for air, her vision swimming as darkness consumed her from within. In the end, as the shadows swallowed her whole, she knew that she was not alone. For in the house of horrors, there are no escapes, only echoes of the past that linger long after the light has faded. The night had taken on a life of its own within the walls of the ancient house, its whispers weaving through the very fabric of reality like tendrils of darkness reaching out to claim their prey. Emily's consciousness flickered like a dying flame, caught between the realms of waking terror and the abyss of oblivion. As she drifted through the labyrinth of her own nightmares, fragments of memory danced at the edges of her mind, each one a shard of shattered glass reflecting the horrors that surrounded her. She saw glimpses of the past, of lives lost and souls bound to the house's malevolent embrace. In the depths of her despair, Emily clung to the flicker of hope that remained, a beacon of light amidst the encroaching darkness. But with each passing moment, it seemed to dim, swallowed whole by the suffocating void. Time lost all meaning within the confines of the house, its walls closing in around her like a prison from which there could be no escape. She wandered through the endless corridors, her footsteps echoing in the emptiness like a funeral dirge for the lost and forgotten. But then, amidst the shadows, she saw it. A glimmer of light, faint and fragile, dancing on the edge of her vision like a distant memory begging to be remembered. With renewed determination, Emily followed its ethereal glow, her heart pounding in her chest with the promise of salvation. As she drew closer, the light grew stronger, illuminating the darkness with its radiant embrace. And there, at the heart of the house, she found it, a doorway bathed in celestial light, its threshold beckoning her into the unknown. With trembling hands, Emily reached out, her fingers brushing against the cold stone of the doorway. And in that moment, she felt it, a surge of power, ancient and primal, coursing through her veins like wildfire. With a final, defiant cry, she stepped through the threshold, leaving the darkness behind as she emerged into the light. And there, bathed in the warm glow of dawn's first light, Emily found herself reborn, a survivor, forged in the crucible of her own despair. For in the darkest of nights, there is always a glimmer of hope to guide the way. As Emily stepped into the dawn's embrace, the world seemed to sigh with relief, as if the very fabric of reality had been holding its breath, waiting for her to emerge from the depths of darkness. The air was alive with the scent of dew-kissed grass and the gentle rustle of leaves, a symphony of life that echoed through the morning mist. With each breath, Emily felt the weight of the house's malevolent grip loosen its hold, its tendrils of darkness fading into the ether like smoke on the wind. She stood on the threshold of a new beginning, her heart brimming with a sense of triumph born from the ashes of despair. But even as she reveled in the warmth of the sun's embrace, a shadow lingered at the edge of her consciousness, a lingering doubt that whispered of the horrors she had left behind. She knew that the darkness would always be a part of her, a scar etched upon her soul that could never truly fade. As she turned to face the horizon, Emily made a silent vow to never forget the trials she had endured, to carry the memories of those lost in the darkness with her always. For in their sacrifice, she had found the strength to defy the odds, to rise from the ashes of her own destruction like a phoenix reborn. With each step, she walked the path of redemption, guided by the light that burned within her heart, a beacon of hope in a world consumed by shadows. And though the road ahead would be fraught with peril, she knew that she would never walk it alone. For in the darkest of nights, there is always a flicker of light to guide the way. And as Emily disappeared into the horizon, her silhouette a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity, the world held its breath once more, waiting to see what wonders the dawn would bring. In the days that followed Emily's emergence from the haunted house, whispers of her ordeal spread like wildfire through the town. Rumors swirled, each tale more fantastical than the last, as the townsfolk struggled to make sense of the darkness that had gripped their sleepy community. For Emily, The aftermath of her harrowing journey was a test of strength unlike any she had faced before. Everywhere she went, curious eyes followed her, their gazes a mixture of awe and apprehension. Some saw her as a hero, a symbol of hope in a world plagued by fear. Others whispered behind closed doors, casting doubt upon her sanity and the veracity of her tale. But amidst the cacophony of voices, Emily remained steadfast in her resolve, her spirit unbroken by the doubts and fears of those around her. She knew that the truth of her experience defied explanation, that the darkness she had faced was a specter of the unknown, a mystery that could never truly be unraveled. In the quiet moments of solitude, Emily found solace in the memories of those she had lost, their faces etched into her mind like stars in the night sky, guiding her through the darkness with their unwavering light. Their voices echoed in the depths of her soul, a chorus of hope that whispered of a future yet unwritten. As the seasons turned and the world began to awaken from its slumber, Emily found herself drawn to the edges of the forest, where the shadows danced among the trees like spirits in the night. There, beneath the canopy of stars, she sought solace in the embrace of nature, her footsteps echoing through the silence like a prayer for redemption. And in those moments of stillness, Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her, a gentle reminder that even in the darkest of nights, there is always a flicker of light to guide the way. For Emily, the journey was far from over. Though the shadows of the past lingered like ghosts in the corners of her mind, she knew that she was not alone, that the bonds of friendship and love would carry her through the trials that lay ahead. And as she gazed into the endless expanse of the night sky, Emily knew that the stars would always be there, watching over her with their silent vigil, a beacon of hope in a world filled with darkness. The old Victorian mansion stood at the edge of town, its imposing silhouette looming like a specter against the night sky. For Rachel, it was an unexpected inheritance, a relic of a forgotten era that now lay abandoned, its halls echoing with the whispers of the past. As she stepped through the threshold, the air grew heavy with the weight of centuries, the scent of dust and decay mingling with the faintest hint of something far more sinister. But Rachel paid no heed to the warnings, her curiosity driving her deeper into the heart of the house. Alone in the darkness, she wandered through the labyrinth of empty rooms, her footsteps echoing in the silence like a mournful dirge for the forgotten souls who had once called this place home. The walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, their ancient secrets seeping into the very foundation of the house. But Rachel was undeterred, her determination unshakable as she delved deeper into the shadows. She had always been drawn to the unknown, to the mysteries that lurked just beyond the edge of perception. And now, here in this forgotten mansion, she had found her ultimate challenge. As the hours passed, Rachel's sense of unease grew, a gnawing sensation that gnawed at the edges of her consciousness. Strange noises echoed through the empty corridors, footsteps in the darkness, whispers on the wind that seemed to beckon her ever closer to the heart of the mystery. With trembling hands, she reached for the light switch, but the darkness remained unyielding, its tendrils enveloping her in a suffocating embrace. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she was not alone, that something sinister lurked in the shadows, watching and waiting. Desperate for escape, Rachel turned to flee, but the doors refused to budge, their ancient hinges sealed shut by some unseen force. Trapped in the labyrinth of the mansion, she was consumed by a sense of dread unlike anything she had ever known. And then, just when she thought she could bear it no longer, she heard it. A faint whisper, barely audible above the din of the night. Rachel froze, her breath catching in her throat as the voice grew stronger, its words a chilling echo in the darkness. "Rachel," it whispered, a cold breath against her ear. "Welcome home." Terror gripped her heart as she turned to face the voice, her eyes widening in horror at the figure that stood before her. Its form was shrouded in darkness, its features twisted and contorted into a grotesque parody of humanity. With each step, it drew closer, its eyes gleaming with a hunger that sent shivers down Rachel's spine. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips, her voice drowned out by the suffocating silence of the night. And then, with a suddenness that took her breath away, the figure reached out, its fingers closing around her throat with a vice-like grip. Rachel gasped for air, her vision swimming as darkness consumed her from within. In the end, as the shadows swallowed her whole, she knew that she was not alone. For in the mansion of horrors, there are no escapes, only echoes of the past that linger long after the light has faded. The night had woven its tendrils tightly around Rachel, ensnaring her in a web of terror from which there seemed to be no escape. Darkness pressed in from all sides, suffocating her with its oppressive weight as she struggled against the unseen forces that held her captive. In the depths of the mansion, time seemed to stand still, its relentless march halted by the ancient curse that bound the house in its grip. Rachel's footsteps echoed through the empty corridors, each one a testament to her solitude in a world devoid of life. But as the hours stretched on, a glimmer of hope flickered in the darkness, a faint whisper of a memory that stirred in the depths of Rachel's mind. She remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell, of spirits trapped between worlds and restless souls doomed to wander the earth for eternity. With newfound determination, Rachel set out to uncover the truth behind the mansion's dark history, piecing together fragments of the past in search of answers that had long eluded her. She combed through old journals and dusty tomes, tracing the threads of the mystery back through time to the very origins of the house itself. And there, hidden within the pages of an ancient manuscript, she found it a tale of betrayal and vengeance, of a family torn apart by greed and ambition. The mansion, it seemed, was more than just a house, it was a prison, a monument to the sins of those who had come before. Armed with the knowledge of the past, Rachel embarked on a quest to break the curse that held the mansion in its thrall, to free the spirits trapped within its walls and restore peace to the land. With each step, she felt the weight of destiny upon her shoulders, a burden that threatened to consume her with its relentless hunger. But Rachel was undeterred, her resolve unshakable as she faced the horrors that lurked in the shadows. She confronted the darkness head-on, armed with nothing but her courage and the flicker of hope that burned bright within her heart. And then, in a moment of revelation, she found it the key to unlocking the mansion's secrets, hidden in plain sight all along. With trembling hands, she reached out, her fingers closing around the ancient artifact that lay before her, a relic of a forgotten age, imbued with the power to break the curse and set the spirits free. As she held the artifact aloft, a surge of energy pulsed through the air, illuminating the darkness with its radiant glow. The mansion groaned and shuddered, its walls trembling as the curse began to unravel, thread by thread, until finally, with a deafening roar, the darkness was banished, and the spirits were set free. In the aftermath of the storm, Rachel emerged from the mansion, her spirit soaring on wings of triumph as the first light of dawn kissed the horizon. The town below lay bathed in the warm glow of morning, its streets alive with the promise of a new beginning. And as Rachel looked out upon the world spread out before her, she knew that she had found her purpose, that in confronting the darkness, she had discovered the light that burned within her soul. For in the end, it is not the shadows that define us, but the courage to face them head-on and emerge victorious on the other side. As Rachel stood at the threshold of the mansion, her heart still racing from the tumultuous events that had unfolded within its walls, she knew that her journey was far from over. The dawn of a new day had brought with it a sense of peace, but also a weight of responsibility, a duty to ensure that the darkness that had plagued the house would never return. With determination burning bright in her eyes, Rachel set out to unravel the mysteries that still lingered in the aftermath of the curse's destruction. She combed through the ruins of the mansion, searching for clues that would shed light on the true nature of the darkness that had held it captive for so long. In the dusty archives of the town library, Rachel discovered ancient manuscripts and forgotten lore, each one a piece of the puzzle that had haunted her dreams since childhood. She pored over maps and genealogies, tracing the lineage of the mansion's former inhabitants back through the annals of time in search of the truth. And there, hidden within the pages of history, she found it a tale of betrayal and tragedy, of a family torn apart by secrets too dark to speak aloud. The mansion, it seemed, had been built upon a foundation of lies, its very existence a testament to the sins of those who had dared to defy the natural order. Armed with the knowledge of the past, Rachel embarked on a quest to right the wrongs that had been done, to bring closure to the spirits that still lingered in the shadows. She reached out to the descendants of those who had once called the mansion home, offering them solace and forgiveness in the wake of centuries-old grievances. With each passing day, Rachel felt the weight of the curse lifting, its hold on the town loosening with every act of kindness and reconciliation. The people began to heal, their wounds slowly fading beneath the warmth of Rachel's compassion and understanding. But even as the darkness receded, Rachel knew that her work was far from done. There were still mysteries left unsolved, secrets hidden in the shadows that refused to be forgotten. And so, with unwavering resolve, she vowed to continue her quest, to seek out the truth no matter where it might lead. In the end, Rachel emerged from the darkness not as a conqueror, but as a guardian, a protector of the light, sworn to defend it against the encroaching shadows for all eternity. And as she looked out upon the world spread out before her, bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun, Rachel knew that she had found her purpose, that in confronting the darkness, she had discovered the true meaning of courage and redemption. For in the end, it is not the trials we face that define us, but the strength we find within ourselves to rise above them and emerge victorious on the other side. As Rachel continued her quest to unravel the mystery surrounding the mansion and the darkness that had once consumed it, she found herself drawn deeper into the heart of the enigma. Each discovery led her down new paths, revealing secrets long buried beneath layers of time and forgotten lore. She delved into the archives of the town's historical society, poring over ancient documents and faded photographs in search of clues that might shed light on the mansion's past. With each new revelation, she pieced together fragments of the puzzle, slowly unraveling the tangled web of deceit that had ensnared generations of unsuspecting souls. But as Rachel delved deeper, she began to sense a presence, a shadowy figure lurking at the edge of her consciousness, its presence a whisper in the darkness that sent shivers down her spine. It seemed to watch her every move, its eyes burning with a hunger that defied comprehension. Undeterred by the specter that haunted her dreams, Rachel pressed on, determined to confront the darkness head-on and bring an end to its reign of terror. She sought out the wisdom of local scholars and mystics, delving into the realms of ancient magic and forbidden knowledge in search of a weapon to vanquish the evil that lurked within the mansion's walls. And then, in the depths of the forest, she found it, a relic of untold power, hidden away for centuries by those who feared its potential to unleash chaos upon the world. With trembling hands, Rachel claimed the artifact as her own, its ancient runes pulsing with an otherworldly energy that sent ripples through the fabric of reality itself. Armed with the power of the artifact, Rachel returned to the mansion, her heart filled with a determination born of the deepest conviction. She stood before the ancient doors, her gaze steady as she prepared to confront the darkness that lay within. With a whispered incantation, Rachel unleashed the full force of the artifact's power, its energy swirling around her in a tempest of light and shadow. The mansion groaned and trembled, its foundations shaken to their core as the darkness recoiled from the onslaught of pure, unadulterated light. And then, with a final, deafening roar, the darkness was vanquished, its malevolent presence banished from the mansion forever. The ancient curse was broken, its hold on the world shattered by the sheer force of Rachel's will. As the light flooded back into the mansion, Rachel felt a sense of peace wash over her, a peace born of victory, tempered by the knowledge that her quest was finally at an end. The shadows had been banished, the darkness defeated, and in its place stood a beacon of hope, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. And as Rachel looked out upon the world spread out before her, she knew that her journey was far from over. For even in the darkest of times, there was always light to guide the way, a light that burned bright within her heart, illuminating the path to a future filled with promise and possibility.